And that's the song E equals MC squared right there off the second CD, which is called Earth, of the new Ayreon record called 01. Right now, let's get back into the interview. Listen to part number 2 of my interview with Arjen Lucassen. Check out the rest of the interview with Arjen Lucassen of Ayreon, and then we'll come back and wrap things up for you right here on the SBV Podcast.
Now, I know this question's been asked because obviously I've seen the interviews, but can you think of like a Spinal Tap moment?
Well, my whole life has been a Spinal Tap moment. That's to say, my life in bands, you know.
Yeah.
I remember the first time I saw Spinal Tap, you know. I've been touring the world for 15 years with all these bands, and I saw Spinal Tap, and it hurt. You know? Everyone around me was laughing, but I was like, oh, fuck, no, that happened to me, you know. I got lost in the dressing rooms, and we had a girlfriend coming along, you know, which was shitty, and we had fights within the band, and we had the wounds on the lip and all the shit, you know. So I recognized everything, and it really hurt. So I had to see it 2 times or 3 times to actually get to like it.
So in a way you related to it, but in a way you didn't want to relate to it.
No, it was also for me, and especially where they meet the rock star, you know, the guy from Rough Cut, and it's like, ah, cool, man, and he walks on, what a wanker, you know. I recognize that so much, yeah.
With the Ayreon, it seems almost as if it's impossible. So do you not ever want to go back out on the road? Are you happy just making the music at the studio and then, you know, not going out?
Well, basically the reason for doing Ayreon was that I was tired of touring.
Okay.
You know, the whole touring life and playing the same songs each and every evening. And I always preferred the time in the studio and being creative. I always enjoyed that. And every couple of years, you know, I feel like, hey, I got to show myself to the fans. It's more for the fans than for myself, because it's really not my life, the live thing. So every couple of years, I think of a way to play live. I think in the beginning of 2000, I played live with Star One,
okay,
which had Russell Allen and Damien Wilson and Floor Jansen. And a couple of years later, I formed this band called String of Passion, which was a side project, and I did a tour with them. But as Ayreon, it would be impossible.
Oh yeah, it would have to be. Maybe,
yeah.
Maybe you could do like a one-night thing where you brought everybody in, but even still, that'd be hard to just coordinate everybody's schedules.
The problem is, especially the original cast is not available.
Yeah, exactly.
All got their own bands. And if you only do it once, you're going to have to reherse a couple of weeks and be available for that as well.
Yeah, that'd be kind of ugly if you didn't rehearse and you just kind of went at it. I mean, I'm sure it would be okay, but, you know, you definitely want to have some rehearsal time with it.
If you only do it once, it has to be perfect, you know?
Yeah.
And not to rehearse is scary. It's scary. And I'm a perfectionist, so I would only do it if I could do it, like, perfectly. And I think it would be possible if you do it, like, in a theater setting.
Mm-hmm. And
if you don't use the original cast, if you just hire like 15 actors, you know, for half a year, and then it would be possible.
Well, maybe that's something for the future. You never know.
Maybe, yeah. It's just not my thing, you know. So
yeah.
Someone else would have to set it up, and you know, as I said, I love to be creative and thinking about the next project, you know. Well, as soon as the album is finished for me, it's like, okay, next one.
All right. Well, you know, let's talk about another project that just came out recently, and that was the EP with the Elected EP with Tobias from Avantasia. How did that come around? Because I know there was like some supposed feud and all that stuff.
Yeah, it's supposed, of course, because I don't even know him that well, you know. And it was funny, I had to talk about Avantasia all the time, you know. Yeah, there's this other guy releasing an album the same time as you, and the same two of the same singers, and every interview, you know, like, oh, goddamn, stop it. And he had the same thing. So and then he contacted me via email saying, like, hey, we have to talk about each other all the time, let's get acquainted. And he also sent me a mail because he said something not very nice about me in a big German magazine.
Ooh.
He said something like that my music was semi-intellectual or whatever. And he said, well, that's the way I am, you know, I just say things, and I hope you don't take it too serious. And I don't, you know.
Yeah.
And I'm sure I must have said something negative about his stuff somewhere. So
well, after a point, I bet you get tired of hearing about it. You know. Like,
yeah, true, and it's you know, people are comparing it, and it's so different. You know, his is just it's not really a rock opera. You know, it's more like tracks, and it's more 80s based, while my music is more like 70s and 60s based, and it's so different. You know, even though they both call it a rock opera and there's two singers the same, it's very different. Well, but anyway, then he said, like, wouldn't it be fun, you know, because really in the press it was, in Germany, it was Clash of the Titans, and then the journalists had to choose, you know, you choose Ayreon or Avantasia, and it was so funny, and people slagging off Avantasia, people slagging off Ayreon, and we were like, hey, let's just do something together, you know, and quiet them all.
There you go.
And then suddenly, you know, he had Alice Cooper on his album, which really pissed me off, because he's my hero. I grew up with Alice Cooper, you know.
You know, we just signed him to SPV, right?
I know, yes, I know. And I was so jealous, and then I told him, you know, like, you fucking... And he was like, yeah, but you had Bruce Dickinson, and as it turned out, that was his childhood hero. So I thought, like, well, let's do a Cooper song, and then of course I thought of Elected, which was my introduction to Alice Cooper back in '72, and of course it's appropriate for the whole feud thing, you know, like I want to be elected, and there's some fun in it. So yeah, I really like it, and basically it was more of like let's do this and it's funny, and then SPV really liked it. They said, we want to release it as a single, and I was like, yeah, you sure? Yeah, fantastic.
That's awesome.
So there you go.
Yeah, we're using
and luckily I had some nice bonus tracks to put on it.
Yeah,
so.
The acoustic E equals MC squared, and
yeah, and the acoustic track of my previous album, The Human Equation.
What's next for Arjen and Ayreon?
Well, between Ayreon albums, I always do a side project.
Okay.
An Ayreon album takes a lot out of me. You know, I work on it for 1.5 to 2 years, and when I finish it, I'm empty. You know, and as we talked about before, you know, arranging all the singers is hell. You know, it's so much work, and so between Ayreon albums, I really need a sort of like a break, and I always do a side project. And basically, I've already started recording in the studio.
Okay.
I'm not going to plan anymore because it never works out. No, really. I mean, this last Ayreon album was going to be like a very quiet, Floydy solo album, and
that didn't happen.
No, that didn't happen. No. So now I'm trying again to make this really quiet album, and I keep trying, but somehow, you know, it's the metal dude in me that gets out the guitars and like, oh yeah, let's put a heavy guitar here. So yeah, I'm recording, and I have no idea what it will be yet. It all depends on who I'll meet, you know, and who will sing on it. And but the way I'm planning it is not to do it with many singers, maybe just the one singer.
Okay.
Yeah, I have no idea what it will turn into, but the inspiration is flowing, so that's a good sign.
Well, it'll be good. We'll look forward to hearing that.
That was the interview there with Arjen from Ayreon. I hope you enjoyed listening to that. We heard a couple songs off the album as well. Remember, the album 01 is in stores now, as well as all the other Ayreon stuff. Remember, if you want to enter the vinyl giveaway, the Ayreon 3 LP vinyl giveaway, to send me an email, freeman@spvmarketing.com. In that email, 200 words or less, why Ayreon is special to you. That's going to do it for this edition of the podcast. I am Freeman, and I'll catch you next time.